Thank you a lot for joining our session today. And as the first start, I'm really happy to welcome Steve. It's great to talk to you. And thank you for joining the Cross-Talk series. And the idea for today's talk is to know the stories and the mastermind behind the EU Fair Play. And we have the perfect person here. We have Steve, we have Manuel, who are also involved in establishing the project from the very beginning. Yeah, and we have Richard, Marcus, and me. We are the current lead of the project. So we have the past, the now, and the future. Yeah. So let's start. I think first of all, I would like to know more about Steve. And can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me in this crosstalk series. I love to be still connected to the EU Fair Play project, even though I work somewhere completely different now. So I'm really happy that you invited me. Um, I'm Steve Nebel. I'm a professor of media education at the University of Potsdam right now. But when I started the project, or when I applied for the project, I was a researcher at the university in Chemnitz, right, where Marcus still works at the chair of Günther Daniel Rai of I don't know, I forgot the chair's name. What was it? Educational psychology. I don't know what is Günther Daniel.
Psychology of learning with digital media.
Exactly, this way around. Yeah, I worked there for 8 years. I should have known that, but I'm sorry, I forgot it. Yeah. I hope Günther Daniel does not watch this video stream and will judge me, so that's fine. So I worked there for 8 years, got my PhD in the field of media and instructional psychology, and worked a lot with, or mainly on educational video games or game-based learning or serious games or whatever you want to call it. And then I left academia briefly for half a year and worked with Bubble as a researcher. That's the language learning app. You might know that. But then I also jumped forward from Bubble to the University of Potsdam and joined as a professor of school-based media education, or just media education in general. Yeah, that's, I guess, my brief summary of who I am.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and as you introduced your personal history, how you worked as the researcher and also worked in the industry, can you also tell us about how did you start the EU Fair Play project?
How did I start? Well, I guess it all started with the call from the BMBF about, I don't know how to phrase it was, Impulse für den europäischen Forschungsraum in German. Sorry, that's what a BMBF is. It's like impulses for the European research area, something like that. It was called like that, and it was about, it called for applications of how European research or European research project might be stimulating for German institutions or educational areas. And in the field of, it immediately caught my attention, as Germany is not exactly a prime example of digital education, neither a prime example of game-based learning implementation across the country, not really. So I immediately thought, well, that could be a case to a chance to learn from our European neighbors and learn together with our European neighbors about the implementation of game-based learning in schools and other educational systems, and how to transfer that into Germany. And furthermore, they asked for, I think it was 4 special topics which where they are especially interested in. And like applications of new technology was one of them. And of course, game-based learning is a prime example of that. It is a new learning technology, although it's not that, technically not that new. It's like over 50 years old now, so it's not really new, but still new to educators. And also one topic they wanted to address was stuff like injustices, educational injustices. And I immediately thought, yep, this is something where there could be good synergies between application of new technologies and using them to fight systematic problems within the educational system. So I saw that call and I thought this is a perfect opportunity. Let's create something. And I reached out to Ulrich Trautwein back then. He gave me the address of Katharina, who was in the project before. And also the contact was established with Helge Fischer, through the BMBF. So we immediately found our small group, and we were thinking like a small group would be perfect for this project because it's a very specific topic, so it should be not that big. So we started to brainstorm and started to create it and draft this this application. So basically, this is how it started. And of course, Manuel was involved too. I was always ping-ponging with Manuel and exchanging ideas how to approach this, especially as he is very connected and established in the field of educational video games and especially in Europe. Thanks for that, Manuel.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Yes, unfortunately, I was only Austrian or an Austrian institution, so
yeah,
we could not.
He couldn't participate. He couldn't be involved in the money, but this did not prevent him to support any way. So that's especially, I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you for introducing the story behind EU-FairPlay. And you have mentioned that from the beginning that you apply funding from BMBF for the EU-FairPlay. You mentioned that you have spotted some problems in our education, in society, in digitalization. Can you elaborate on this topic and tell us about the mission of EU-FairPlay? What specific questions or problems that you aim to solve with this project?
Well, there are educational injustices, inequalities. This is without a dispute. Stuff like the educational level of the parents predict success of their children, stuff like equipment and socioeconomic status are important factors in the educational systems for the success of the children. That's without a doubt true. And this needs to be changed. So we thought educational video games might be a way how to address that. For instance, as certain socioeconomic groups tend to play more, and thus are, for instance, groups with lesser income, with lesser socioeconomic status, and those are the groups that needs to be addressed, and they do play more. So it's a good chance to exactly use this type of medium as they use it more voluntarily to connect them back to learning, to use more interactive, more complete media learning experience to support them, as they could not afford tutoring, for instance. So we need good educational systems that provide individualized feedback and stuff like tutoring. And this is what games can do as well. So those were the thoughts behind this, why we thought games could be a good start. And games as technological systems are somewhat blind to the audience. They don't have prejudice towards the audience. And in classrooms, there are class combinations that are also difficult for teachers and that sometimes lead to persons left behind. And this is something also where technology comes into play and can support that. Games can connect classrooms from all over the world, can create learning groups from city to city, which is not otherwise feasible with offline learning, of course. Games are not the only thing that can do that, but they are one thing that can do that. Those were the initial ideas. But the problem was those were only ideas, only not even blueprints, but just ideas how this could be solved. And the problem is we needed expert opinions to kind of work on those ideas, to define them more, to think about them, to connect them to their research. Or is there some research already aligned with those ideas that could be used, and to kind of refine this to make like proposals, to create proposals for the European educational system, for the European educational or research room to work on this more, so that in the long run we might see games getting produced exactly for that reason, or research done on exactly those topics, because in our opinion back then that's desperately needed, especially in Germany. However, the EU-FairPlay project was always created as a living organism. Like, this was the initial starting point. This is what we thought of now a very long time ago. And since then, unfortunately, I never saw the start of the project because I left it here at Chemnitz back then. So I don't know how it further developed, or might develop into a different direction. So maybe this is a question that I have to give back to you, to Markus, Skylord, and Richard. What are your current trajectories for this project? Because I don't know, honestly.
Yeah, thanks. I think, yes, this is the problem that we are trying to solve and tackle at the moment. As what you said, we are trying to find out the best research and practice to address these equity problems in education with game-based approach. And what we are currently doing as 3 aspects: we are developing research topics on this theme, and we are conducting original research, empirical research on how to improve learning and creativity with games. And we also build a network, like the initial idea of EU-FairPlay networking project. We also try to reach to the companies and also the industries and also schools, education settings, so we can transfer this research to the practice. And we organize it like in the on-site networking meetings, like in Tampa last year, and we also have 2 meetings this year. And we also have this kind of online talk, like what you are doing now. We invite experts from different research disciplines, and then we can invite the audiences from the practical sectors, so we can better communicate and cooperate with each other.
Yeah.
These are the 3 parts we are doing: the research development, the network building, the practice transfer. I wonder if this is aligned with your original idea, how the project develops.
Yeah, absolutely. This has to be by definition a networking project. The main aim should be to get people to talk each other and develop ideas together. That was what the funding was applied for. That is what the money is there for, basically. So that's perfectly aligned. But what I meant was not like this is the technological side of things. This is how things are organized. But the topics themselves are meant to be developed and changed maybe down the road. Maybe in the second year, a different topic emerges, and then the topic of the EU-FairPlay network might change from and deviate from our initial ideas. So that's what I meant. This is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we're really close to the original topics. What is new is the topic of creativity. That is something that Skylar brought in.
Yeah, why not? That's what it's meant to be, by networking different people together and gathering ideas. That's cool.
Right. So as what you said, EU-FairPlay is a growing organization, and as we are including new network and practice partners, we always have the new topics emerged from communication, from collaboration. Yeah. And with this, I think I would like to know more about your original ideas about the EU-FairPlay. Like, I'm curious, when I joined the project, I'm curious, how did you come up with the idea or the title of the project? Is there some thoughts behind the name?
Well, I mean, it's obviously a little bit a hint on the world of gaming, because fair play is important. And it's a connection to the main topic of educational injustices. We don't want those. We want to battle those. We need fair play in educational systems. So it's the perfect bridge between our means and the end of the means, the game, and the end of fair play in the educational system. I honestly do not know anymore who came up with the idea of that. I really don't know anymore.
Maybe it's a group idea.
In doubt, it was a group idea.
Yeah, that's very nice. And as far as I know that you were very much involved in setting up the project, and I think the project started officially last year, and you have successfully received the funding from BNBF. And when I talk to our audiences and network partners, they are also interested in how did you apply for the funding, like from the very beginning of the idea to execute the project application. Can you tell us more about the application of the funding part?
Well, I mean, this first of all, this is a very German-specific topic, as the BMBF is only funding organization for German application. This is why only Manuel could not be involved. He is obviously very sad about that, which I can totally understand. But it heavily depends on the specific call, how you would approach it. I think this call was very, I don't know if it was very unusual, but it was some kind of unusual because it was a networking project. So in contrast with other calls where you would go much into detail about exactly what you're gonna do and what the topic is, was this more like how the most important thing to clarify first was how the network is going to evolve, what are the partners going to be, and how they are related to the questions you want to answer. So it was not about the topic itself. The topic itself was fitting. I made sure that it was fitting. I clarified that with the everyone in the BMBF who was involved in this, especially in the DLR, the Träger of the organizer of this project. And I made sure the topic was what they intended to do. That was fine. And from that point on, I very much started to kind of kickstart the networking already before we applied. So I got like 10, 12, 15 letters of intent. I don't remember how many anymore, of potential networking partners who wanted to participate in this project. So the network building was very much already ongoing before we applied for this. So that was one important thing. And the other one was what was quite unique, I guess, about this was that when I, Helge, and Katharina applied for this, none of us were professors back then. So I don't know if we were the only project without professors in it, or one of the few. I think we were the only one that was led by a person who has not yet a university chair. So this was kind of unique back then, and it needed a little bit arguing to tell them that this is actually a good idea, and it could only be done because in this specific call, the development of youth and young researchers was part of the call. So we could argue, yes, this is also not a project only to develop the EU-FairPlay network, but also the participants and researchers in this project are kind of developed and supported by the project itself through networking, exchanging research ideas, maybe creating some research, creating additional funding applications, stuff like that. So this was kind of a little bit unique, I guess. And in the end, this is what we did and what we wrote down. And we were lucky enough to get funding.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. For all the network partners from EU-FairPlay, if you're not a professor yet, I still hope to apply for the funding and get funded. So
yeah, it's not easy, though. I have to admit it. In this special case, it was possible because support of aspiring researchers was part of the call. I don't know if this can be applied widely, but
yeah. However, there is still hope, and
okay.
I think your successful story is really inspiring for others. Yeah. Okay. Then, when you propose the project funding, and how did you think about the milestones of the EU-FairPlay project?
Well, the milestones kind of organically grow with how a network should develop and how often a network should talk and interact with each other, and how often this is feasible or realistic in the very busy day life of researchers. So kind of thought how many meetings should be there, how early we should start to produce a final product. We also included the open access handbook in the proposal when we should start working on this, and so on and so forth. It's not a very long project, so it kind of organically grew how the milestones should be created. So it kind of was obvious how to create it in this specific case. We just need to constantly work on this topic, so we kind of stretch out every milestone equally over the whole time. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah, and as you have participated in establishing the project, and I think you have also been more or less here and there involved during the involvement of the EU-FairPlay project. I wonder your impression. How did you see the EU-FairPlay project evolved over time?
Honestly, this is something I cannot judge, because I left the EU-FairPlay project maybe 1.5 months after it started, something like that. So it merely got off the ground when I had to leave. While I was there, I started to organize the first virtual meeting in Gather. This is something I started to organize with Katharina and Helge back then. But even that meeting, I wasn't working at the university anymore, and so can't tell. I'm really sorry. I hope it evolved in a good way. I'm sure Markus, Richard, and Skylar, you're taking good care of it. I'm absolutely sure about that. But maybe this is something you should ask each other or someone else.
Yeah, we do talk to each other about it, and maybe we can also talk to you about it, how it evolved over time, and hopefully you can also join in some of our on-site meetings and such kind of online talk, so we can better communicate to each other of the current events.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great. Then I think without knowing about the current involvement of the project, and I think that's a very good way to address it, because you are not biased by our current positive picture. What would you imagine the future vision of EU-FairPlay project?
Do you refer to the current time the project is funded, or the time after the funding ended?
I think both. Like from now on till next year, the end of the project, what do you imagine? How do you wish it to evolve over time?
Yeah, I mean, from what you sketched out when we applied for the funding, I would think or hope that the project is currently in the process of creating the first white papers on the ideas that have been discussed in the latest meetings. I mean, you've met virtually, you've met in Tampere, you're about to meet in Thessaloniki, right? So there should, some of those initial ideas I mentioned earlier should be a bit more flushed out by now, and maybe some connections with researchers that are interested in each individual idea should potentially be made. So with those clusters working on each idea, maybe some white papers should be in the process of being made or initialized, so that I would expect till the end of the funding, of course, that the open access handbook should be kind of done, and some connection should be established in the sense of that are not only they are made like hello and bye, but also constantly used. Like, I know creating a network is incredibly difficult. It's really a challenging task. Many people have many tasks, and coming and set another additional task opposing something to them is challenging. So to kind of have a few connections being really established, like there might be the potential of further cooperation in them, that would be really cool. And for the time after the funding has ended, this is tough because without money, nobody is gonna work actively on this project anymore, which is terrible. But I hope that a few of those connections that have been made are sustainable and that they will exist longer than the project's duration, and that really a few research corporations might originate from them that could benefit, especially you, because you are the aspiring researchers that should also be supported by this EU-FairPlay project. Maybe you have created new research contacts and created, initiated a few research projects that are tackling the topics of the EU-FairPlay project. That would be cool. And yeah, maybe way down the road or other funding projects that could start with the ideas that are circulating in the network. So maybe that would be cool.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think this is aligned with the activities that we are currently organizing, that people communicate, and seek cooperation for collaborating on research projects. And these kind of projects are usually featured by the multidisciplinary cooperation. So we have the experts from education field and also game designers, game research, media research. So I think there are new topics going on. And we also have the people who are interested in applying for the funding together. So I also hope that by the end of the EU-FairPlay, the projects and the fundings for the next step can be established. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And reaching to the last questions, I'm interested in your broader vision of the EU-FairPlay project. Like, what kind of impact do you expect that EU-FairPlay can make in this world? If you think broadly, and in this case, in which way we can be helpful?
I mean, those ideas how game-based learning can apply to different scenarios or problems are new, but they are not really widespread. I hope this network project can help to change this a little bit by sparking ideas and by initiating research and maybe a few publications to get the application of the idea of applying game-based learning to a problem like educational injustice more widely out there. So I hope this puts it on the radar of a few people, and maybe stuff like the handbook or white papers will be read by the right people in the future, by people who create games and think about those things, how to apply those games, how to use those games, and maybe they will find the white paper discussing how it should be designed to benefit people that are suffering from or have the problem with social disparities. So if that could be achieved, I would be more than happy.
Thanks. We will keep you updated. And thank you all for joining our crosstalk today. And we have the audience here in this Zoom meeting live. We will also post this video to our YouTube channel. And thinking about our audience here in Zoom meeting and also our audience on YouTube channel, Steve, do you have some take-home message to our audience?
Some take-home message. That's a difficult one. keep fun and keep fun. What a strange one. No, have fun. Keep on playing. That's good.
Have fun, keep on playing. That's a powerful message. Yeah. I think we will put it as the slogan of our network meeting this year. Yeah. Thank you a lot for joining our crosstalk. We have Richard already having fun, and I also hope our audience also have fun today. So this is the end of the interview and crosstalk with Steve. We will also leave a few minutes for our audience. If you have any questions, you can have the chance to talk to Steve directly. You can either unmute yourself and talk directly, or you can just type your questions in the box and I will moderate your questions.
I see Manuel is thinking very hard right now.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you when we're going to have our next gaming session, Stephen.
Oh,
you know, fitting to your conclusion now and talk home message.
Take over. Yeah, we need to have that soon.
Yeah.
As a disclaimer, Manuel, I know we were playing online games together, and so to kind of moderate the stress of a stressful academic career, to kind of foster our mental health and well-being. But anyway, I also want to mention that the fantastic logo of the EU-FairPlay was created by Manuel.
Oh, yeah. Just my poor pixel art skills, you know. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a great logo.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Also, members from EU-FairPlay can also ask questions that you are interested in.
Maybe it would be good to know if Professor Nebel would join us in Thessaloniki.
That depends. That depends. I really much hope so, but I cannot promise this, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, we have a question from Marco. Can you unmute yourself? You can speak up directly.
Yes, I can unmute and I hope you can all hear me.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, why not? Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for the input and talking about the project, about how it developed, the funding, very interesting. Because I'm also interested in funding and game-based learning. It's a perfect match and a good motivation to be here. Great to see all of you. And actually a very practical question to the last aspect in Thessaloniki. So were you referring to the early conference by chance, or because then it would be great to see you there, because I will also attend the conference and maybe we can then talk to each other more about the current status of the project and any more great aspects of game-based learning, of course.
Yeah, I think this is exactly one day before the early conference, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you, Marco. Great question. And this is also something that I want to show to our audiences today and also on YouTube later. You can find all the new information on our open science framework, EU-FairPlay. I've already shared this link in our chat box. We will also put this link in our YouTube channel. So you can find 2 events that we have organized for the network meeting. One is in the 20th of August in Thessaloniki, in Greece, and it is aligned and one day before the early conference. And the other one will be held in Netherlands in October, and it's also held aligned with the ECGBL conference. So we really hope that we can see you there and to have chance to talk to each other. We will post the new information and the invitation of the participants in our newsletter and also in our open science framework. So you can take a look of our news there. We look forward to see you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
A word of practical advice to Marco regarding the funding, especially regarding funding of game-based learning. I'm not advice per se, because I've only successfully got this funded and this was difficult enough. Funding in the field of game-based learning or games in general is challenging in Germany because we don't have many reviewers who are experts in this area. Game-based learning is still a bit newish to the field, and you often have to convince people who are not really convinced of the concept itself. Do you have to convince them of the concept of game-based learning or game-based research, and additionally that this is kind of suitable to be connected to the call, whatever it is. So it's really challenging. My perspective is super important to talk to the people who organize the call to make sure it really suits their needs. I don't think this project would have been funded without enthusiastic support by the DLR regarding game-based learning, to be honest. So it's really, it's not easy. I get that.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, as you said. Then you have to consider the status, so to say, of the society and the contextual stuff that you say, okay, where can I connect in this country with this funding seat? That's the opportunity we have, and if we have to align ourselves to artificial intelligence or any other topics which are then like prioritized, it's a chance still.
Yeah, it is, of course. AI is also a topic that is interesting in game research. So yeah, but it's challenging in Germany.
Yeah, but we'll never give up. But thank you very much for the insights.
And Marco, and also for other audiences, if you have some initiations about research projects or collaboration on funding together, you can always join our Cross-Talk series online, so you can share your news and share your ideas, initiations to our audience. So perhaps you have the potential collaborators here, or you can join our on-site meeting like this year in Thessaloniki and also in Netherlands. We will plan a spot for the people who have some initiations. So you have some time to talk to others and present your idea. And we believe that if you want to have support, as the person there would be the most valuable asset for you, and it will definitely make your idea stronger and more powerful. So just contact us. You can find our contact information. If you want to join our network meeting, contact us first. We will consider and then send you the invitation to join the meeting. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Okay, other questions?
Good.
Okay, then if there is no further question, I think I would thank everybody who joined the meeting today. And I look forward to see you again, either in our online talks or in our on-site network meetings. Thank you for joining.